During the 1990s, a new study was started in Chicago, the Project on Human Development in Chicago Neighborhoods, sometimes called the PHDCN. This was supported by the National Institute of Justice and the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. It's a comprehensive project involving various high-level research and policy institutions. It combines a longitudinal study of youth, utilizing interviews of over 6,000 youth and their caregivers, along with neighborhood studies that include surveys of over 9,000 neighborhood residents and systematic observations of levels of social and physical disorder in 80 neighborhoods. Data collection focused on community surveys, systemic social observation, longitudinal cohort studies, and an infant assessment unit. Some of the key findings were that homicide and violent victimizations were found to be lower when neighborhood residents shared values and had common expectations. When this occurred, neighbors would intervene in problem behaviors. They trusted each other. The researchers called this combination of shared values, trust, and expectations for social intervention a collective efficacy to control crime and violence. The greater the collective efficacy in the neighborhood, the lower was the rate of violence. The PHDCN has been the largest project of its kind. By 2012, the National Institute of Justice had spent over $18 million on the project, and the MacArthur Foundation had spent over $23 million. The result of it has been considered one of the biggest research insights in the past decade, and it's expected that it will shape policy for the next generation. Our final slide considers delinquency over the life course. The three factors presented in this slide help us understand how lack of resources impacts various social structures and how it affects children specifically. Let's talk briefly about these three factors: reduced social capital, human agency and social structure, and disorganized communities. Social capital is referring to the resources that reside in the social structure itself, the norms, the social networks, and the interpersonal relationships that contribute to a child's growth. We've already talked some about disorganized communities, but to recap that discussion, we're referring to the macro-social forces, meaning segregation, structural transformation of the economy, housing discrimination or employment discrimination, and how these forces interact with community-level factors, such as local-level poverty, family disruption, or residential turnover, how these forces interact with those factors to impede effective social organization. And the concept of human agency refers to choices that people make. Ultimately, some people raised in the same environment will make certain choices. Often the support of family or being in a supportive relationship, a long-term relationship or marriage, often those will be a factor in determining whether one will continue with delinquent behavior or make changes. It's recognized that if one controls for steady employment and committed relationship, that this appears to be a big factor, along with the age or development of the prefrontal cortex of the individual being studied, that this appears to be a big factor in desistance to crime. So these three factors, reduced social capital, human agency and social structure, and disorganized communities, these tend to have a higher impact on children because these children are captives of these factors due to their young age. So we've made it through our chapter on social structure theories. Next chapter we'll consider social process theories, which looks at the environment and how the youth reacts to it.